there, baseball fans. I wanted to do a quick follow-up to the last video on the Houston Astros cheating scandal. First, I'd like to start off with rehashing some of the precedents addressed in the last video, and then we'll go into some new details that have been discovered since then, including the apology or non-apology of the Astros before spring training began. So, to get into some of the background here, as I discussed in the previous video, just to establish some precedent for you, the cheating in baseball, like virtually any sport, is not exactly a new thing. The difference here is the fact that throughout the 100-plus history of Major League Baseball, they've been hit with some fairly serious scandals. The 1919 Chicago White Sox being paid by bookers to throw the World Series, despite being a significantly superior team than the Cincinnati Reds back in 1919. Then there was the whole scandal of Pete Rose in 1989 getting banned for betting on his team to win. Because fundamentally that sets a bad precedent when you're betting on baseball, that you have direct control over whether or not he was throwing games or doing something to influence the outcome was never identified, but the act of the betting on baseball when you have influence is still a big no-no. Then of course you have the 1991 through 2003 PED or steroid era, where you had individuals throughout the league juicing to enhance their numbers. Now, fundamentally, I strongly believe that the cheating scandal is far more severe than the PED era of 12 years plus, and even still today, because for a very fundamental reason. When people are juicing to improve their numbers, they are already tainting their record to go to the Hall of Fame, and I doubt any Baseball Association writer would ever vote them in to the Hall of Fame, i.e. Mark McGwire, i.e. Sammy Sosa, i.e. Barry Bonds, and the list goes on and on. Eddie Pettit will never see it, even though he didn't do it for playing the game, he still admitted to doing it. Then there's also Alex Rodriguez, prolific steroid user. He will never see the Hall of Fame. So essentially, the individual accomplishment of the player is tarnished, but the game itself largely remains intact because no individual player can, in and of themselves, carry their teams to a full World Series championship. Otherwise, in the last 25 plus years, somebody would have been able to do it. I mean, Barry Bonds came the closest in 2002 and still fell to the Anaheim Angels because it's a team sport. No individual can override that. However, that's what makes this scandal unprecedented in its level of gravity here, because you had an entire team conspiring against the league. And whether or not managers, executives knew about it, and they claimed it was player-driven, you still have a ball club conspiring against the league to use electronic equipment used for replay challenges to identify the calling signs of the pitchers and give players an unfair advantage in hitting. Carlos Stanton came out today and even said that if he had known what pitch was coming in 2017 when he had 59 home runs, he could have easily hit 80 runs that year just by knowing what was coming. It's a massive advantage to know what was coming. Imagine this, in 2019, when Altuve is up against Aroldis Chapman. Chapman hits the upper outside corner by a hair, and Altuve just sits there like it's a wide outside ball. Are you freaking kidding me? Then, of course, now granted, you can check scouting reports and you can tell when Chapman has his fastball command in place versus his slider. I get that. But the fact of the matter is that his behavior and his reactions to the plate clearly identified that he knew Chapman was going to throw a slider and where he was going to throw it, and then boom, they are off to the World Series on that Game 6 home run off Chapman. That is only one of many examples I could dissect for you. But I want to stay on point here. some of the key events in this 2-year scandal. Now, I understand that they were only found guilty for 2017. I get it. They only admitted to 17. They did not admit to what they were doing in 18, which I'll get into in just a moment. They didn't admit to what they were doing in 19. And fundamentally, even with a new general manager and Dusty Baker at the helm, there's still going to be skeptics questioning whether or not they're still cheating. With the Anaheim Angels opening up the season in Houston, if they win any of those games, how many people are going to be crying foul? You tell me. Especially considering they've already come out, Mike Trout and others, talking about how egregious this was as an offensive against the game. And then of course you're going to open up with LA in Houston. I mean, I would not be surprised to see some Houston batters accidentally taking a beating by some pitchers. So, taking a step back here, some key events in the regular season aside, okay? Yes, you can go into statistics about home and away advantages, etc. But I wanted to go into some key events that scarred this whole scandal here. In 2017, you have the Houston Astros with their trash can banging and whatever else and whistling, whatever else they might be doing, enable them to win 4 games against the New York Yankees in ALCS, losing 3 in Yankee Stadium, where they don't have the same advantage. Then, in going on to the World Series, they start off with 1-1 against LA in LA, come back and play 3 games in Houston. They take 2 out of 3, but Alex Wood, who won that only game in Game 4 against the Houston Astros, was interviewed as to how it is he was able to win in Houston. And he said he came into the game super paranoid about the potential of sign stealing based upon suspicions that had been arisen. And he told his catcher that day, I want signal changes every 8 pitches. That frequency of just changing up the signs kept the Houston Astros in check and off balance the whole game, giving LA their only win in Houston. Granted, they go on to Game 7 in LA and they lose 5-1. The LA Dodgers lose 5-1 in Game 7. Now, I get it, that you don't have the same ability to cheat in LA, and yet they still won Game 7. But fundamentally, if you've got games 3 and 5 in the bag from your stealing, and you manage to take the first game of the series, Game 1 in LA, you've now got a 3-2 lead, and you have 2 chances to close out a team. Especially with the fact that you're beating up on Darvish in Game 7, and then you have Clay Shaw, Alex Wood, and others trying to salvage the game. Unfortunately, it was too late for them. They had already given up 4 runs in the first inning. At the same time, there was just so much evidence of them using what they had available to them with the 3-game set in Houston to outright steal the ALCS from the Yankees, steal the World Series from the Dodgers. Then you come back in 18, where you've got Alex Cora, the 17 bench coach, leading the helm for the Boston Red Sox, and the Boston Red Sox managed to have a tremendously strong outbreak this season. I mean, they did significantly better in 18 than they did in 17, and better in 19. They fell right back down again. So if you have a significant jump in 1 year with Alex Cora, the bench coach of the Astros, at your helm, and you go on to take out the Yankees in the ALDS, take out the Astros in the ALCS, and then take out the Dodgers in the World Series, and you did it in such a convincing style. Boston Red Sox are still under investigation by Major League Baseball, but what I found the Boston Red Sox did was even worse than the 17 Astros. The reason being is because Alex Cora figured out how to cheat on the road. Now, do I have specific evidence of this? No, I don't. But what I do have is suspicious evidence. Suspicious evidence being the fact that in the ALDS, Last year, Tanaka was the only one to get a win. He got a Game 2 on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Then you come back into Yankee Stadium, and it's not even close. It was a bloodbath where Boston was beating up on New York at an accelerated rate when your two games in Boston were very, very close, decided by a run or two. You go into New York, and they just destroy them in their own home field. They do the same thing to the Houston Astros. It's close in Boston, and they destroy them in Houston. Then the LA Dodgers, they take them out too. I don't have the splits on that one. But fundamentally, it shows that Cora has taken this to the next level. Now, in 2019, he takes us to London series where you have set in the 150-year history of Major League Baseball in a two-game set a Major League record for runs scored in a two-game set. Do you think that's done by accident? You've got Carlos Beltran of the 2017 Houston Astros as DH, as a special advisor for the Yankees, versus Alex Cora, the former bench coach, both helping their players do the best they can. And even Cora said in the post-game interview saying, "I know what you're doing, Carlos Beltran." I mean, he sees what's going on. He knows both sides are cheating to some degree. And you have an unprecedented 41 runs scored in that two-game set. That's sick numbers. It made for great fanfare in London, I get it. But if it wasn't fair game, then you still tainted the whole history books as well as the legacy of the game. So with that precedence under event and those key events going on there, we come back to the punishment that Selig handed out, where the owner, who by the way is a multi-billionaire, was fined $5 million. That's like if you have $5,000 in the bank account, in your bank account, and you get fined $5. Are you even gonna feel that? I don't think so. So that was pathetic. But at the same time, in the negotiated collective agreement, that was the maximum owners agreed to let themselves be fined by, because here's the reality matter. Between the Players Association, the Players Union, and the owners, the Commissioner's Office has demonstrated they have very little actual power beyond what they can get others to agree to on their own accord, which is what made Bud Selig so amazing as a commissioner. He managed to negotiate to get the Players Union to agree to PED testing when they didn't have to. He managed to negotiate with all the other owners to bring in other rule changes to the game that they didn't have to agree to. He was a master at negotiation and winning people over to his point of view. Manfred, nowhere close to that. He showed how little power the Commissioner's Office actually has over the game of baseball. The fact that all he could do was strip a couple of draft picks, suspend, not even fire, but suspend the manager and the GM, and give the owner a small fine. It was a disgrace and penalty, especially for something so egregious as blatantly violating Major League Ball rules and policies by using technology to your distinct advantage. If it was legitimate sign stealing, like the guy on second base relaying the signal in, so be it. That's gamemanship. But when you have a guy watching the cameras, seeing the signs, relaying that in, and telling the player what's coming on a regular basis, that is beyond over the line as far as violating the integrity of the game. And Manfred was basically showed how little power he has and how helpless he was to do anything. He even admitted the only way to get the evidence on the Astros was to give the players immunity for something he felt discovered was player-driven. So the players come up with it, players orchestrated, the players ran it, but you can't punish the players because there's no way to get them to confess to it unless you give them absolutely no punishment of any kind. That's sick and disgusting. I digress. If this was Selig, they would have never gotten off the hook with just that little. Now the Red Sox are still under investigation for 18, and we don't even know if they're going to have an investigation over 19. And everyone has suspicions about whether anybody's cheating or not in 2020 to open up the new season. Several players have come out and said, I want these guys beaten and paid the price for it, because if the commissioner's office is not going to punish these guys, I want to punish them ourselves because of how many games they stole from us, how many championships they've robbed the league of. I mean, between the 17 of the Astros and 18 of the Red Sox and 19 of the Astros who lost to Washington. I'll get into that in just a second here. Because of what they did to the game, how much they tarnished the image of the game, how much they destroyed the integrity of the game, I am completely in agreement with the players and the pitchers who want these batters to face some sort of penalty by getting hit. I understand the concern they have for players' safety. No one should be hospitalized or potentially killed over a wild pitch. I get that. At the same time, if you really want to punish these guys, oops, ball slip, hits you in the hip, doesn't hospitalize you, it just gives you a lot of pain going down to first base, and who's going to prove anything? Especially if it happens in a pivotal moment of the game where you can fair up and say, oh, I wasn't trying to hit them, but they definitely deserve the kind of thing. Those are the rumors I've seen in various articles here. So going back to the 2019 World Series, Washington versus Houston, I felt that this was particularly interesting. I wondered how is it that they won all road games, especially with Houston being obviously they're still cheating here in 19, even if it hasn't proven yet. Because fundamentally, if you're getting away with it and getting away with it, and it's helping you win championships and helping you advance, why would you stop it until you get caught? Granted, they fell to the Boston Red Sox, who were just playing better at it than they were. But in 19, they made it back to the World Series after taking out Tampa and taking out New York again. Now, how did Washington combat that? Because fundamentally, they had an inside track. Alex Cora called Dave Martinez of the Washington Nationals, the manager, and told them what to look out for. And catchers and pitchers that were interviewed about how they prepared for the World Series after the fact, and they said they had suspicions of the cheating, and they met at the club well before they were supposed to work through sign changes and strategies to keep them off base with the expectation that they were going to be stealing the signs. So just like Alex Wood did against the Astros in Game 4, where he was changing his signs every 8 pitches, the Washington Nationals came up with something that was effective for them so they could win all 4 games in Houston. How they lost 3 games in Washington, I don't have enough information to be able to report on that specifically. It could just simply be they played better at those games, but Washington definitely had a strategy to overcome and beat Houston at their own game in their home ballpark. So, with all that, I just wanted to follow up with the whole situation, and I feel that the punishments, while weak, and the apologies were pathetic from both the owner and Bregman and Altuve, that it bore going over some of the updates since the scandal first came out and since the punishments first handed out, and it definitely illustrates that not only were the punishments severely lacking, but the damage to the game. I mean, I don't care how many times Alex Bregman talks about how we need to earn trust back. You destroyed that trust by cheating, Bregman. You did. And to Houston Astros fans, I'm sorry if this has happened to your team, but I'm not sorry because fundamentally your team violated the rules and destroyed the integrity of the game. And that is not okay to any baseball fan, including Astros fans. How can you help? I can't imagine the slack you must be getting from other fans when they give you crap about the fact that your team cheated. You have to eat the crow for actions that your team committed that you had nothing to do with. And for that, I feel sorry for you guys. For everyone else, I would love to hear your thoughts on what I think, and give me your feedback as to were there any details that I didn't cover in this video, were there any questions or concerns you had about details related to you in this video. Let me know all your thoughts. I would love to hear all about it, and I'm hoping to put together some videos for you through the course of the regular baseball season to keep you up to date with all the news and fantastic stuff going on in 2020. Until then, See you next time.